Hey guys, welcome back to another video. If you are new, my name is Mel. I share cooking videos on here twice a week and I hope you will join my YouTube family and hit that subscribe button. Today I'm so excited for a very first on my channel. I'm going to be making 4 amazing crescent roll recipes. Let me know what you think below and let's go ahead and get started. First up, we're making these twisted cinnamon sticks with a cream cheese icing dip. I'm preheating my oven to 375, and then in a small bowl I'm adding 3 tablespoons of sugar with 1 tablespoon of cinnamon, and I'm just going to mix that together. Just set that aside for the moment. Next, I'm getting out a sheet pan and lining it with parchment paper. Once you get your crescent rolls opened, you will need to take 2 of the triangles and press them together to create a rectangle. You should have enough crescents to make 4 rectangles. Just make sure you press the seams together, and if you're using a crescent sheet, then you'll just need to cut it into 4 squares. Once I have all 4 of those laid out, I'm going to melt 3 tablespoons of butter in the microwave, and then we're just going to cover 2 of these with this butter. Next, you're going to take about half of your cinnamon sugar mixture and add that over top of the buttered crescents. We are going to use the rest of that cinnamon sugar in just a minute, so don't get rid of it, just set it aside for right now. Now that you've added the cinnamon sugar over the buttered crescents, go ahead and carefully pick up the other 2 sheets and add those on top. I did lightly press them together in some spots just so that when I started to cut them in pieces, they would hopefully stay together a little better. I found that the easiest way to cut these is just by using a pizza cutter since it just glides right through, and I cut each of these into 5 pieces. Once I had cut through all of them, I went ahead and added more butter on the top. These top sheets were the ones on the opposite side that had not gotten any butter on them yet, so I went ahead and buttered them up, and then after those are all buttered up, we're going to go ahead and start twisting these. So one at a time, you're just going to twist these up, twisting each end in a different direction until the whole thing is twisted up really nicely, and then you're just going to lay those out on your baking sheet. You'll probably notice that as you lay them down, they will untwist a little bit. Because of that, you want to make sure you're twisting them as tight as you can, so if they do untwist a little bit, it's not a huge deal. Now that I have those all twisted out and on my baking sheet, you want to make sure that they are spaced apart a little bit because they are going to expand in the oven. And now I'm just covering those with the rest of our cinnamon sugar mixture. Now these are going into the oven to bake for about 10 minutes. Now to begin on our icing, I have 2 ounces of softened cream cheese in this little bowl. To that, I'm adding a half cup of powdered sugar, a splash of vanilla extract, and 2 to 3 tablespoons of half and half. Just add it slowly, that way you can decide how thick or thin you want your dip to be. I made these after dinner one night for a movie night. These are really easy to make, they take hardly any time, and they definitely remind you of a cinnamon roll, and we actually prefer to eat them warm, so if you can eat them right away, do that, that's when they are best. Up next, my husband has advised me that these need to be our go-to garlic bread, and I have to agree, this cheesy filled garlic bread was absolutely delicious. Starting off, I'm preheating my oven to 375 degrees, and just like the last recipe, we're going to roll these out into 4 rectangles. Make sure you squeeze them together, that way they are one solid piece. Next, you're just going to take a knife and cut all those in half, that way you have 8 pieces. For each one of these crescent dough squares, you're going to add a pinch of mozzarella cheese. You can also use a cube of mozzarella cheese. If you have a block, you can just cut that up. It's a lot easier that way. All I had was shredded, so I went ahead and just used shredded, and it works just fine as well. Once you get the cheese in the center, you're just going to pinch the edges all together and round that out into a ball, and then stick it on a lined baking sheet. Once all of those are rolled up, you're just going to melt 3 tablespoons of butter into a bowl. And into that butter, you're going to add 2 tablespoons of grated Parmesan cheese. You're also going to add some seasonings in there, a half teaspoon of garlic powder, a half teaspoon of oregano, a half teaspoon of parsley, and just a dash of salt. Once your garlic butter is combined very well, you want to make sure you get all of the clumps of Parmesan cheese out of there and all mixed together. Onto each one of these, I'm going to add a spoonful of our garlic butter and just spread that around the tops. These baked in my oven for about 10 minutes. You just want to make sure you take them out when the tops start to turn a golden brown. As you can see, that dark brown on the bottom of the pan, no worries, that is just from the garlic butter. The bottoms of these are not burnt, they're done just enough. As you can see, these were so good and so cheesy. Like I said, my husband said these need to be our go-to, and we would eat them again in a heartbeat. Up next, these were so fun to make. These meatball subs on a stick really impressed us. Once again, I'm preheating my oven to 375 degrees. And I'm going to be rolling my crescents out into 4 rectangles once again. Make sure you press those creases together so that they become one piece. Now we're just going to resituate these and put them long ways on our cutting board. So now I'm going to add about a 1/4 cup of shredded mozzarella cheese to each one of these. Next, I'm going to go ahead and set out my skewers. The ones I have are about 12 inches long, and they are a little long for these, but it's going to work just fine. These skewers will help make sure everything stays together and that they are not so flimsy. The next thing you're going to need are some frozen meatballs. If you have fresh meatballs, I guarantee that fresh meatballs would make this recipe even better, but today we're going to be using frozen. With the frozen meatballs, you need to make sure they are completely thawed before adding them onto your skewers, and you will need 5 meatballs per meatball sub, so a total of 20 frozen meatballs. Now that all the meatballs are set out, we're going to go ahead and begin wrapping these. The easiest way to do this is by taking the 2 bottom corners and bringing those together, and then moving to the 2 top corners and bring those together, and then go through the middle and close everything else up. You just want to make sure you do your best to enclose the meatballs and cheese so that they do not leak out. Once these are all rolled up, they're going to resemble corn dogs, you'll notice that. But after we get those all done, we're going to go ahead and add these to a baking sheet lined with parchment paper. Now into a small bowl, I melted 3 tablespoons of butter. I'm going to add a half teaspoon of garlic, a half teaspoon of parsley, and a dash of salt. Once that's all mixed together, go ahead and cover each one of these with your garlic butter. These went in my oven and baked for about 10 minutes until they were lightly browned on the outside. After coming out of the oven, these are getting covered with another round of garlic butter and then a little bit of Parmesan cheese over the top, and then they're ready to serve. This is what they look like on a plate, and of course I have a little side dish of marinara to dip in. These were really fun to make, and I definitely think these would be something that kids could enjoy. They're really easy to eat and they're not messy at all. Last but not least, we are making these ham and cheese Hawaiian roll-ups. I'm preheating my oven to 350 degrees, and the special ingredient in these ones are these sweet Hawaiian crescents. I have made these before with just regular crescent rolls, but I thought it would be fun to try these ones out tonight and give them a little something extra. For this recipe, you're going to need to roll all your crescents out and turn them into one big sheet. Make sure you press all of the little lines together so it is one solid piece. Next, I have 1 pound of thinly sliced Black Forest ham. I will be using up the entire pound, and I'm just going to try to spread these out as evenly as possible. Next, I'm going to be adding 6 to 8 slices of cheese. You can either use provolone like I am today, or you could also use Swiss cheese. Now we're going to begin to roll this, and you want to try to do it as evenly as possible and also keep it as tight as you can. If your dough begins to rip, just go ahead and pinch it back together. It'll be just fine. The goal here is to try to slice these in 1-inch thick pieces, and you should end up with about 12 to 14 of these. Now that we have those sliced up, we're going to go ahead and take a 9 by 13 baking dish. I did spray the bottom with some nonstick spray, and we're going to start putting these into our dish. As you put them in the dish, go ahead and try to squeeze the dough together on the ends. That way they don't fall apart in your dish. Go ahead and just set those aside for a minute. In a small bowl, I'm going to melt about 3 tablespoons of butter. After that's melted, I'm going to add about 1 teaspoon of everything but the bagel seasoning, 1 teaspoon of Dijon mustard, and a half teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce. Once you have that mixed up really well, go ahead and brush that over top of all your Hawaiian rolls. You want to make sure you use every drop of that butter and seasoning mix. Now these are going in the oven for about 25 to 30 minutes. Just keep a close eye on them to make sure they don't burn in those last 5 minutes. These Hawaiian rolls are jam-packed with flavor from that butter and seasoning mixture, but also using those Hawaiian crescents added a sweetness to these, and we just couldn't get enough of them. I hope you enjoyed watching today's video just as much as I enjoyed making this video. I would love to know if you try any of these recipes. You can let me know in the comments below or on my Instagram page. I have my name right there on the screen for you, and I will see you guys back here next time.